Thanks for staying with us. Let's get you some more of the state's political news. Now, the DMK may not have been present during the grand swearing-in of the new Chief Minister of the state, but they were certainly watching with a very close eye. The Karunanidhi-headed DMK is now up in arms over the appearance of the Tamil Nadu Chief Electoral Officer, Mr. Praveen Kumar, who attended that swearing-in ceremony. Election Commission sources have now said that it is left to an individual officer whether to attend the swearing-in ceremony or not, and that there was nothing wrong in doing so. It was a Tamil Nadu cadre IAS officer who attended the ceremony, but the Election Commission did not really want to come on record. And our executive editor, English News, Sanjay Pinto, was joined by the former CEO, Naresh Gupta, and senior journalist Gnani, and took up the big question about whether election officials should really keep away from such ceremonies. Here's what they had to say.
Is there anything wrong, first off the block, sir? Anything wrong? Would you have attended the swearing-in ceremony when you were Chief Electoral Officer? Or is it a case of much ado about nothing, sir?
No, actually there are no guidelines or instructions from the Election Commission of India whether the state Chief Electoral Officer should or should not attend these functions. An invitation is generally extended.
The invitation is extended not by any political functionary, but by the Chief Secretary of the government. So anything wrong in that? The Chief Secretary, and it's an important point you're raising, sir, that there is no model code of conduct, as it were, for Election Commission officials, their do's and don'ts.
Yeah, actually the invitation is extended by the state government, that is specifically the Chief Secretary or the Secretary Public Department. So it's an invitation from the state government, and there is no really bar to the Chief Electoral Officer attending functions or ceremonies. He had not called on in any case the Chief Minister designate before the swearing in or the Chief Minister after the swearing in. Probably what may have provoked this kind of criticism is the fact that some AIDMK people had expressed their appreciation of the way the elections were conducted, and maybe that was the reason, but actually there is nothing wrong in his attending the program or the function for which he had got the invitation. If the program had been held in Raj Bhavan, possibly the invitation might have been issued from Raj Bhavan, in which case again it would have been all the more important that he should have attended or participated in the program.
All right. Let's go across to Mr. Gnani. Mr. Gnani, do you see anything wrong in this? Is the Chief Electoral Officer well within his rights to attend that function? It's after all a solemn event and he is a constitutional functionary.
Definitely not. I think it's quite fair that the election commissioner or the chief electoral officer attending the swearing-in ceremony. But the swearing-in ceremony, we have to understand, is a swearing-in of the chief minister and the cabinet. And once elected, the chief minister and the cabinet are common for all the people of Tamil Nadu. So the main opposition party leader is expected to attend. All other political parties are invited to the function. So which means it is a neutral government official function. So everybody must be able to attend, and nothing wrong in the chief electoral officer attending it.
All right, Mr. Gupta, to you now, sir. When you were Chief Electoral Officer, there was a similar storm that was raised, in fact, because you didn't call on the then Chief Minister. How did you feel then? Did you feel sort of targeted in a sense?
Yeah, actually what had happened was the general assumption is that if the Chief Electoral Officer calls on a political leader, the Chief Minister wears two hats. He is the Chief Minister. Apart from that, he is the leader of a political party. So if he calls on the Chief Minister or the leader of the ruling party, the fear is that he might be viewed as one who can or should receive instructions from the leader of the ruling party, who happens to be the Chief Minister, which will detract from his independent functioning. So that is why it was appropriate that he avoids calling on. Also there might be criticism from the other parties that he had called on only the ruling party leader, and thereby he is close, he is having proximity to the leader of the ruling party. So that is why it was appropriate that the chief electoral officer should not call on the leader of the ruling party, who may happen to be the chief minister, of course, of this.
All right, let's go back to Mr. Gnani now. Mr. Gnani, does it send wrong? The DMK seems to suggest that it sends wrong signals. They've been alleging in the run-up to the elections that the chief electoral officer, they've even attacked the election commission, saying that the power should be curtailed in a federal setup, and that in a sense the fact that they've lost this election, that it vindicates their stand that the particular officer was perhaps biased against them. Is there any merit in this argument at all?
I would rather say this is atrocious, and DMK is trying to find some lame excuse for losing the election. In fact, their spokesman, Mr. T.K. Silangovan, very funnily said that spectrum was not the reason for the defeat, and even a child in Tamil Nadu would say otherwise. And so they are now finding out lame excuses for their defeat and trying to make a scapegoat of the chief electoral officer. On the other hand, let us look at what DMK's own track record on this. Mr. Naresh Gupta would remember that very much, because Naresh Gupta did not meet either Jayalalitha or Karunanidhi when they were chief ministers, even as a courtesy call. He said that was not required of him. For this, Chief Minister Karunanidhi at that time issued a press statement condemning Naresh Gupta. That was the first time the election officer was condemned by a sitting chief minister. And it is very funny that Karunanidhi, who expected chief electoral officer to pay courtesy calls on him, is now objecting to a chief electoral officer attending a formal function.
All right, there seems a contradiction there, what you are suggesting. Yes, Mr. Gnani, also, should chief electoral officers, should key election commission officials actually live in splendid isolation during this model code of conduct period and remain aloof completely from the rest of the world in a sense?
No, the point is, this is a formal government function where the new cabinet and the government are sworn in. It is beyond party politics. And look at the Chief Justice of the High Court and the various judges of the High Court. They all attend this function. Does it mean that the Chief Justice and the judges would be biased in deciding cases against the Chief Minister? It does not mean that.
All right, that's a very interesting point that you've raised, Mr. Gnani. Mr. Gupta, there were several other constitutional functionaries. You had several judges of the Madras High Court who were also present. So clearly, it's not just it's not just Mr. Praveen Kumar who is attended. Why do you think he's been singled out in this case? Because the same argument can hold good for other constitutional functionaries as well.
Actually, it's a bit difficult, embarrassing for me to answer this, because I cannot go into the politics. What happened, as you mentioned also, that in Tamil Nadu there's so much of political rivalry, hostility, that any action taken will be viewed with favor or disfavor by the two parties. So if it helps them, it will be viewed with favor. If it goes against their interest, then it will be viewed with disfavor. So
either way, you are damned.
The official functionaries can become the target, can be targeted by one or the other party in Tamil Nadu. It's very well pronounced and very much prominent in this state compared to other states. Unfortunately, it's very the degree is too much in Tamil Nadu.
All right, so you won't encourage your son to become an IAS officer?
Yeah, he in any case he has chosen a different line, and
probably seeing what you've been going through, sir.
Yeah, I again it becomes it's a question of one. I mean, some people may think that this is a challenge, so we should face the challenge. Some people may think, why get into all these complications, so why not choose a professional line?
All right. Let's go back to Mr. Gnani. Mr. Gnani, this personal rivalry that even Mr. Naresh Gupta has just spoken about. Now, even you look at, overseas, look at the US presidential election, look at Obama and McCain, McCain greeted him. Obama reflected that in his address, that victory speech, saying that he received, to quote him exactly, a magnanimous and a gracious call from Senator McCain. They do greet each other, they exchange pleasantries, they attend each other's swearing-in ceremonies. Why is it so different here in Tamil Nadu, sir?
Yeah, Sanjay, all this happened only with Karunanidhi and MGR. Before that, it did not happen. It started only between Karunanidhi and MGR, who took it as a personal fight. And after the death of MGR, it continued with Karunanidhi and Jayalalitha. There was a small refreshing change in between. If I remember rightly, in 2001, when Jayalalitha took over, I remember Stalin and Anbalagan then attending the function, which was very unusual and a welcome thing. I wish they had done it this time also. At least Stalin could have attended on behalf of DMK. And it will be good if it happens, but if it doesn't happen, it only shows that DMK is not willing to change, and which is bad for itself.
All right, actually when you mentioned that, I remember that those images, I was covering that, in fact, beaming Ms. Jayalalitha walking down the aisle, greeting Stalin and Anbalagan who were present. Extremely gracious of them to have also attended that function, but just when we thought that all was well, then there was a huge controversy again kicked up there about the seating arrangement. And don't forget, a few years ago, a union minister's name was printed on an invitation of an ADMK function without his permission, and that also became an issue. So when do you think this political nitpicking will ever cease?
Yeah, these small bickerings continue to happen. These have to be overcome, and I think in Tamil we always say that one single hand cannot clap. You need both hands to clap. So all the sides have to come together to clap. Only then it can happen.
Well, there's plenty more heading your way. Do stay with us on the Late Night News.